Well, what's up, everybody? I am here with who I call Pastor C, a very dear man of God to my heart, my pastor. To you all, I will say, be official, Pastor Carly Lundy of Blueprint Church. Has shepherded me for about 2 years.
Man.
About 2 years, man. And this is really dope to be sitting before you, man, and just to interview and talk to you, man, about the journey, how your some of your story and how you came to
Yeah.
Blueprint Church, man.
Man, appreciate talking to you. Love you, man. We miss you. We're trying to get you back.
Yes, indeed. Okay.
Yeah, you can come back. But no, I've been at Blueprint for about 2 years now. And so originally we were at Blueprint when Blueprint had first launched. I met the Hadi when he came to North Carolina to share with a church that I was a part of, planning Blueprint. And so he shared the vision. And at the time, my uh fiance, or well, we were dating, girlfriend at the time, she had came to visit me, and so she had just recently moved to Atlanta looking for a church. And so when she heard about this new church being planted in Atlanta, she was like, hey, let me stay in contact so when it does launch I can start attending. And so, make a long story short, after they had launched, she joined their worship team, and we eventually got married. And the pastor who I was with in North Carolina, James Roberson,
Yeah.
he ended up, after he married us, he ended up moving to Atlanta. And so from that point on, my wife and I, we just felt like, all right, well, we can move to Atlanta. We have pastors, we have churches there, and so we can do that. And so, and back in 2011 ish, we had started Blueprint, or we were at Blueprint. But then we ended up planning a church out of Blueprint in Miami, with Moochie, called the Brook.
Brooks.
And so I went and was a part of that church plant. I was
To the Brook.
the Brook, yep. And
Amen.
so I was the teaching pastor there for 4 years. And then after that, the Lord called us away. And so we moved away. We were in DC for another 4 years. My wife was in dental school at the time. And then so when she was done, she got accepted into residency in Atlanta. And so on our way to Atlanta, moving to Atlanta, I hit up the hottie. It was like, hey man, we're moving down. We have a couple churches that we're fielding opportunities. Like, do you know like any thoughts, or do you have any thoughts about those churches? And then of course the hottie
Being
knows how to
high.
recruit. And so the hottie was like, hey, we're looking for a pastor here at Blueprint. Like,
Wow.
would you consider that? And then so we ended up reconnecting again. And then yeah, that's how we ended
Man,
up being here. Yeah.
it was amazing, man. I been knowing about Blueprint years ago, part of the network Rebuild in my Boulevard, and so had been to Blueprint visiting and actually moved
Yeah.
to Atlanta. So I was a part of Blueprint Church prior to you coming. But let me say, man, it was very encouraging. I mean, it was just a unique situation to see you come in to Blueprint as a pastor, as a shepherd, and they would say capital S shepherd, and to see you have immediate impact, man, on shepherding the people of God. And things had taken place, but it was like, man, people really felt your impact, myself included, other leaders. And as I led a city group, the people would talk about just your immediate impact. So thank you for that, man. What can people come to expect if they were to visit Blueprint in Atlanta, Georgia, man?
Man, I'm honored for you to say all that. Man, I think one of the awesome things that I love about Blueprint is when you hear about churches in Atlanta, um, you don't normally hear of churches that are very diverse, but then not just that, but very missional, intentional about being in the city, being a urban community, and in the urban community, but then not just that, but man, like passionate about planning churches. And so having all that integrated within Blueprint, I think that's just been awesome. And all of that comes from the Hottie's DNA. And so being a church that is focused on the Old Fourth Ward, we're trying to be as missional as we could. Man, when you come to Blueprint, you just feel like family. We talk about how we are a family. We're not just a church. We're not like family, but we are a family,
Yeah.
and we intend to be that way, or try to create that environment for people. Yeah, so
Yeah, man. I concur. I agree wholeheartedly, man. The church is not like family; it is family, and it was family that helped resuscitate my life.
yeah,
Without going into a lot of detail, because it could get emotional. But one of the things that I've always admired in pastors is their ability to handle the word, and and you nonetheless handle the word with such authenticity and so passionately in your way. But even more impressive to me, again, is just the way you connect with people. And not only that, as a city group leader, the way you would empower leaders. It seemed like it was like no ego involved, just, hey, I want to see you empowered to do what God has called you to do. So, with that said, though, if somebody was to come and I know there are you have elders, plurality of pastors, but as kind of like the lead pastor now, what would they come to expect you as a pastor and leader of Blueprint?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I love the fact that, like you said, we have elders, and so as a pastor, I operate under the authority of the elders. And so, and I love the fact that we have this mutual relationship where they empower me to lead, but then at the same time, they hold me accountable.
Yeah,
And so, knowing that we can lead, and then not just that, we also have the hottie. We get to lead with elders with different skills, different giftings,
yeah,
and so that the church is not um, unbalanced. And so we have the hottie who's a great visionary and who's a coach, and I lean on that.
yeah,
And I get the blessing of caring for people. And so caring for our church. And so the fact that I don't necessarily have to hold all the weight of the church on my shoulders, that I could share in that
yeah,
relationship. I'm willing to do that. I'm happy to do that. And I'm like, hey, Dahadi coach and lead and cast vision, and then
yeah.
I get to care and shepherd our church. And so
I love it.
so I love the fact that we have a team dynamic. And I think that's one of the things that we try to do very well. We have team teaching. And so, like you see in your city group, when you had team teaching there, where you and then another
Yeah.
teacher was there. And so we rotate in our teaching too. Um, and so, yeah, having that team dynamic is worked
That's
well for us.
beautiful, man. I love it, man. I benefited from seeing both of you guys' leadership style. You know, I love Dahadi. He's been a mentor to me. But I go to Dahadi and he motivates me to get on mission. I go to you and I just need to weep and cry. And you need to put me back together. He'll continue to beat me up, but I love him nonetheless. But so with that said, brother, when you think about my boulevard, and I know Dahadi, this is something that he's very passionate about, and I know you've come into now my boulevard, and even as you when you took the position, you went through actually the cohort
I did.
and everything. Tell us a little bit about that experience and your feelings and what you as far as my boulevard at this point in time now.
The community that it's afforded me to have. And so knowing that I have brothers who are pretty much in the same labor, going through the same things, having the same heart and passion for our urban context, and knowing that like we have these spaces where we can meet and we can, like you said, weep together,
Yeah, yeah,
right, and share in some of the struggles that we have pastoring our churches. And so I know that I'm not alone, and I think that's the biggest thing that I feel like I needed coming in, just being planted in the church, not knowing much about what's going on in the city or not knowing much what's going on in the church. It could feel very lonely to try to figure that out on your own.
yeah,
But then with the cohort, we have some of these tools that, you guys have put together. And these tools have been things that's been tried and tested. And so I don't have to try to figure it out on my own.
yeah,
And so I can just kind of take it, adopt it as my own, or in whatever ways make it fit in my context. And so it helps me. And then I can bounce ideas with some of these other guys. And so it helps me not to have to recreate the wheel,
yeah,
knowing that I got guys who's doing that and who's
yeah.
done that well. And then we can kind of bounce ideas off of each other.
Indeed, man. I love it, man. I love it. You know, so again, I'm passionate about Blueprint Church in Atlanta, Georgia, in the Fourth Ward. And for those who may not know, and who just want to visit the area, or even maybe want to come to Atlanta, because there's a lot of colleges, a lot of universities. You want to come and you decide, hey, I want to come to a place, not only a university, but also a church. I think Blueprint is a great church to come to. Tell them how they can even get in contact with Blueprint or yourself.
Yeah. I mean, well, you can always go online, blueprintchurch.org, and you'll see just we have 2 locations, and so we have one in Stone Mountain, but then one in the city, and also contact me, Carly at blueprintchurch.com or .org. But man, anyone who wants to come and partner or just visit, we welcome for you to come, and you could always check us out on Spotify or social networks, and just to see what we're about.
Hey, man. Well, let me say this, and it's genuine. I'm about to be 50 this month, so I don't cap no more. But I do want to say, man, your life in the brief time, those 2 years, and even now, has had a profound impact on me to see you come in and the humility by which you lead with, the way that you handle God's word, and more importantly, not more importantly, but just as important, the way you handle God's people, man, has been profound to me, and it's had a unique effect. And I love the fact that I'm able to co-labor with you in my boulevard, and hopefully in the future do some more co-laboring, man. So love you, brother, and that's genuine, true. Love your family, beautiful man of God, man. And that, yep.